Happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to what I hope will be the first of many Fuck Society Dealing with Mental Health Today podcasts. Today is pretty much a mock run. It's my first time actually trying to officially do this podcast. So I kind of figured, you know what? Let me just shoot from the hip today. Um, a little bit about myself. My name is Chris. I have been dealing with mental health issues for the better part of my entire life. Unfortunately, I didn't know I was dealing with mental health issues until the latter years. I became an adult. And had I known when I was younger what I know now, I feel like I might be in a better space. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason. So, in dealing with my own mental health struggles, I've realized that as much as society wants to say we're dealing with mental health issues, we're really not. If you've ever tried to get help, whether it be a therapist or medications, you know the health system when it comes to mental health is, I'm sorry, yeah, the health system when it comes to mental health is horrible. And I'm not saying that they don't care, but what I'm saying is it's easier to have other afflictions than mental health. So again, I want to provide a platform for people to come and feel comfortable, maybe, talking about their experiences or just listening and maybe hearing something that resonates with you. I know for me, talking to somebody who can relate means a world of difference. And I'm not saying that others, don't care. But again, when it comes to mental health, either you understand it or you don't. And if you don't, the only thing I can say is if you don't understand, at least try to be empathetic. I think judgment is quick to be passed. And I know that there are some people who use such things as anxiety and depression as an excuse. But there are those of us that really do suffer. And I think people look at us and say, "Oh, you seem fine," or "Oh, what happened? Why are you like this today?" And people don't understand it's not like this today, it's every day, but some days are better than others. I think what people need to understand is it's like any disease. It may lay dormant, but it's still there. And just because somebody's going 3 or 4 weeks or 4 months without any issues does not mean that there's not going to be any. So I know me personally, I've gone stretches where I felt great and I felt like, you know what, I almost got this thing beat. And then, case in point, this week comes along and it's like, holy shit, not only don't I have it beat, I have a lot to still understand. And again, with this podcast, I'm hoping to not only help others understand, but to also help myself learn more because as I go through this, as I get older, I do learn more and more. And I don't think people understand there's a lot to deal with. Mental health illnesses can be vicious, they can be treacherous. You hear how ruthless cancer can be. You hear people say that it's aggressive, it can be an aggressive disease. Well, things like depression, PTSD, having bipolarism, postpartum depression, those things can be just as aggressive. And unfortunately, it's hard to catch them when you go down the rabbit hole too far. So, with this podcast, I'm hoping to maybe touch one person in a way that they say, you know what, I'm not alone. Somebody gets it. And because of that, I'm going to make it. There are days where I've had rough days where just waking up have been difficult. And what I mean by that is just opening my eyes, having to deal with life. It's just, it's horrible. But I also want others outside of mental health to understand and not just understand, but to kind of get an idea of what we're dealing with. And I know those of you who have loved ones that, are suffering, it's hard. It's definitely difficult for you guys, especially spouses and children, because at the end of the day, um, if you don't deal with it and you don't understand it, it's hard. Again, somebody going to bed happy and wake up the next day depressed, that is difficult, because you're wondering, well, what could have happened while you were sleeping to make you feel this way? And unfortunately, we don't have the answer. So, um, kind of that's the premise of what I'm hoping this podcast will be. Also, I am learning a lot about myself in dealing with this. And I also think that that's another thing that society does not understand. When you're dealing with mental health illnesses, you have to get to kind of know yourself in different ways. And as silly as that sounds, it's the truth, because again, you have to know yourself in your depressed phase, in your anxious phase, in your bipolarism phase. You have to get to know these quote unquote characters within yourself. And it's difficult because it's like you're on the outside looking at yourself, knowing something is off, but not being able to control it. And I can tell you firsthand, waking up feeling like the world is against you is a horrible feeling. And I think all too many times it's dismissed as just an excuse. I'll be honest, I remember years and years ago, before I had my breakdown, I used to pass judgment on others who had, depression and anxiety, because I felt like, well, if I can make it, you can make it. Fast forward, 2021, I now understand what it feels like to not want to get out of bed, to not want to shower, to not want to brush your teeth, to not even want to make yourself something to eat. Um, you know, One of the worst things in the world is to smell your own self and just not have the energy to do anything about it. Those are, some of the struggles, something as simple as making a meal can be difficult. I remember one day, I don't know what the hell was wrong with me, but I had went through like 15 different options just for dinner. Like, it should be simple, but it's not. And again, I think people need to understand that things such as preparing dinner on the wrong day can be the straw that broke the camel's back. Um, that school bus in the morning holding you up on a bad day just can be one of the worst things. And again, there's a lot when it comes to mental health that I think people still don't understand. And part of the reason I came up with the title, if I didn't say it already, is because I feel like although society pretends to care about mental health, it's still kind of taboo. Not to be disrespectful, but it's easier to be an addict than it is to have a mental health illness. And I'm not knocking addiction because, excuse me, pardon me, addiction has run rampant in my family. And I know what it's like to deal with somebody with an addiction, to be in a household with it. But what I also know is it's easier to tell people you have an addiction than it is to say you have a mental health illness. And I think that's a problem. So I'm hoping with this podcast to help individuals who are going through the struggles, and also to help people who may not realize what they're dealing with. Because I know for a long time, until I was actually diagnosed, I just chalked it up to having a bad day. But when you start having a bad day frequently, there's something wrong. And I don't want anybody to go through what I went through, and I'm hoping that I can help people avoid that. Especially the younger generation. I often hear so many times people say about young people, you had nothing to be depressed about. You had nothing to be anxious about. People don't understand. You don't choose to be depressed. You don't choose to be anxious. You don't choose to have PTSD. You don't choose to have postpartum depression. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't choose these things. So the fact that we're dealing with them is, it's hard. So again, not going to go on too much further because I just wanted to give the premise of the podcast. And honestly, for me, I just had to get myself in gear to do it. I've been putting this off for a long time out of fear, just kind of talking myself out of it. But again, I feel like I've been selfish because I do feel like there are a lot of people who can watch, one of these podcasts and maybe be okay and feel like, what, finally somebody gets it. And I know for me, the first time I talked to somebody who truly got it, it was like a weight lifted off of my shoulders, because I knew that, okay, it's not just me. This is real. I'm not just making this up. All the years of being told that I'm not. So yeah, so that's it, everybody. Again, I'm hoping that this podcast will help others as well as myself. Officially, I'm hoping to kick it off in May, because this Wednesday, May 1st, starts Mental Health Awareness Month. And again, it's one of those months that, like any month that celebrates something, once the month is over, it's gone. But I think that we need to talk about it more. So if you happen to watch this video, thank you very much. And I hope that it kind of was enough to get you to watch another one. I know it was a little boring and dry, but I promise once the official podcast gets rolling, it will be a beat. I will be talking about other things, current events. The one thing I do not really like to touch on is politics, because at the end of the day, I feel like this: Republicans are red, Democrats are blue. No matter the color, they don't give a blank about you. So that is one thing that I will not try to touch on, unless it's something funny. But I will also try to, be lighthearted, because mental health is draining and exhausting. So I'm going to end on that note, and I'm going to end with this: it is okay not to be okay. That does not mean you give up, but that does not also mean that you should be hard on yourself. Having a bad day, you're human, especially if you are dealing with this illness. It is a beast. It just, people do not understand what a beast it is. So if you are out there dealing with this, just know you're not alone. Just know that you have people who understand, whether it's somebody you know or know indirectly. You have people who understand you, and you have a platform that you can come to and feel comfortable. Everybody, hope you're enjoying your weekend. Do something for yourself, whether it's binge Netflix, make yourself a sandwich you see on Food Network, whether it's take a hike, go look at some pets. Me, um, I'm going to relax. Today was the first day I went out of my house for a couple of days, and it was draining. So I'm going to just take it easy. Everybody, have a good Saturday, and I hope to see you on the official kickoff of Fuck Society Dealing with Mental Health Today. Thank you for joining me for this quick little synopsis. Hopefully I'll see you soon. Peace.